family, welcome to Jacey's Creek, where I talk about Pacey and Joey as a couple and as individuals. In case this is your first time here, hi, my name is and the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to talk about Pacey and Joey and how they come together. And today is my favorite episode, and it's going to go along with what this podcast is because there are 10 scenes of Pacey and Joey. And finally, I get to say that it's not just about the individual part, it's about the couple too. And so that's the main reason why I started this podcast, was to teach you guys all my thoughts on what makes Pacey and Joey, Pacey and Joey. Before we start this episode, I want to say that if you are having trouble sitting still and you're not really good at listening to podcasts, you can always find this video on YouTube. It's Jacey's Creek Podcast. You can follow along with me by watching the episode. There's a lot of freeze in it. It will just have me explaining it. I realize one thing is I will go on long tangents, so it would be like one freeze of a really silly clip. And if you want to understand what I'm talking about half the time, you can also see me putting up videos or photos of me explaining everything that's happening when I'm talking. There's a lot of different references, so I may put like a video of another episode that I'm talking about, or like a photo, like a small clip of it, so that way you guys understand what I'm talking about if you need the reference. But if not, then continue listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and make sure to give this podcast a review and make sure it's 5 stars. If not, if it isn't 5 stars, please tell me why you don't like this podcast or why you do like this podcast. I always hope that I can keep this up, but I have no clue if I will or not, and I just want to throw this out there. Then make sure you tell me why you like it, why it's 5 stars, or why it's 1 star. Nothing will really hurt my feelings. I mean, again, may hurt my feelings for a quick second, but your opinion is your opinion, and my opinion is my opinion. All of these are stated about my opinions. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, this episode is Season 1. This episode is Season 1, Episode 7. It came out on March 3rd, 1988. There are 3 scenes of Joey, 4 scenes of Pacey, which is actually honestly shocking because this is the first time that Pacey actually has more scenes than Joey, which is crazy. And together, like I said, this makes 10 scenes of them together. Basically, the whole episode they're together, it's like probably 30 minutes of them together, which I am so happy about. I don't know about you guys, or if they're not together, like exactly, they're not really talking, but there are times where they're like sitting next to each other. I'm so happy about this. So the first scene that we see is of Joey, of course. We see Joey and Dawson in the bedroom, and they're watching a Cars movie, and in between them is an E.T. doll. I don't know why this always stands out to me. Every single time I see this E.T. doll, y'all, like, I cannot handle it. I'm always laughing about it. We then see Dawson turn off the movie, and Joey asks, what is he doing? They've been watching it for an hour and a half, and she would like to know what happens. And Dawson says, I don't get this movie, which honestly is me in any action movie. Like, I don't know, like, every single time my friend always tries to show me this action movie, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're trying to say to me. Like, I don't process these things. Dawson then says, when movies get too unrealistic, it depresses me. I get a headache. I can't watch. Okay, Dawson. Pats him on the head. You do that. Joey points out that his favorite movie is E.T., which Dawson goes, so? And Joey says, a fat-fingered alien who eats Reese's Pieces and flies around on a bicycle? Dawson says, the emotion's realistic, and Joey just sighs. This movie has a girl decide between two guys, so they drag race and agree to go out whoever has the fastest car. Doesn't that sound familiar with the one scene at the boat and Pacey and Dawson trying to get to the finish line, whoever's the fastest? I wonder where Dawson got this idea. Sits there, kind of think about it. Wait, probably from this scene, because, he thinks it's stupid, but yeah, he does it. Joey then says, "Hate to break it to you, Dawson, a fast car can be a real turn-on." Dawson then said, "Why don't they just wrestle? Whoever has the biggest arm wrestles wins." And it says, "Give me the remote." And he doesn't. So she says, "Give it to me." And Dawson was like, "I don't want to." And it sounds like a little baby to me. She then goes, "You're asking for it," and jumps on top of him while he laughs. And she goes, "You're such a brat." And then stops herself. And the two stare at each other so awkwardly. And this reminds me of season 5, where Joey started to act very, very careful around Dawson. And if you know what happens in season 5 with Dawson, you'll completely understand this. But she acted like everything was just gonna set him on edge. And that's exactly what she's acting like right here. She goes, this movie really does suck, doesn't it? As she gets off Dawson and Dawson agrees. She goes on to say, "Guys are attracted to girls for a total superficial reason." And Dawson then closes his eyes and shakes his head. And by the way, Joey's sitting down the whole time when this happens. Joey then goes, "Yes, they are. They're like New York girls with blonde hair and pout lips and bony arms and big boobs." And Dawson looks the other way. She says, "It's both ways, Dawson. It goes both ways." Dawson then says, "Jen doesn't have big boobs," but Dawson stops and says, "Bony arms." Dawson can even agree with Joey. Joey then says, "You can't stand the idea of a girl choosing between two guys. She might not choose the romantic loser with flowers and cheesy poem." I can't with this. Okay, so let me stop real fast and say that Joey just predicted her whole future right here. Because then she goes on to say, she might choose the guy with the faster car with the bigger biceps or bigger joysticks. And I know Pacey probably doesn't have the faster car, but he apparently does have bigger biceps. And maybe a bigger joystick if Joey's looking down there, but Dawson did go up to her with flowers. The reason why I say flowers is because if you look in season 2, Dawson goes up to Joey when they're going on their date, and he picks weeds. Like, he literally doesn't pick a flower. Like, he doesn't walk up to her with a bouquet of flower. No. He picks it looks like a weed from the garden, which I'm convinced that it is, but maybe I'm wrong. I remember when I first saw this, I looked at my best friend, and I'm like, did he just pick a weed? And my best friend's like, I think so. And I'm like, excuse me? I don't know why I always find that hilarious. And then we see Dawson go, "Bigger joystick?" And Joey says yes, and Dawson says, "Joey, first of all, girls are attracted to romance more than anything else." Okay, Dawson, you're telling a girl this. You're literally telling a girl this. And not all girls are attracted to romance. Because I know for me, I am attracted to romance, that's one thing, but let's face it, I'm a lot like Dawson. I have said this plenty of times. I actually took a quiz that someone sent me in my DMs, and my answer was are you Dawson or are you Pacey? And my answer was Dawson, which is so sad because I already knew that. And I was like, I know this, and she's like, all we need to find is our Joey. And I'm like, but I don't want to be a Dawson. because I continue to be a Dawson and I cannot find my Joey, because Dawson never found Joey. Get it? Because Dawson doesn't get Joey, Pacey gets Joey. Anyway. And Joey then rolls her eyes and says, yeah, keep up the lie there. Dawson then says, second of all, I don't compete with other guys like Pacey and me. You don't see us running around arm wrestling for some girl. Not yet. Season 3. Sorry, had a big cough right there. You know, stuff happening, allergies happening, COVID happening. Like, yeah, you get it? And Joey says, yeah, keep up the lie there. Joey even knew that. Joey says, as I said, you don't like to lose. Dawson then frowns and then says, what is that supposed to mean? And Joey says, it means Pacey has bigger biceps. And Dawson goes, he does not! And Joey says, are you sure? Because I thought he did. I love Joey teasing him right here. It's just so funny to me. Just, keep up the good work, Joe. Keep up the good work. Joey then says, so let me get this straight. If girls are so attractive to romantic guys, then why won't Jen have sex with you? And Dawson goes, Jen wants to have sex with me. She just... And Joey goes, hasn't gotten around to it? And Dawson says, let's watch the movie, Joey. And goes back on the bed and watches the movie. And Joey just smirks while saying, thought it was giving you a headache, as she watches the movie, but then looks at Dawson with a small smile. I don't know why, but Joey in this scene, when she says that Pacey has bigger biceps, she knew that was gonna get on Dawson's nerves, and that's why she did it. But, Joey, honey, what you looking at there? I see you. Probably replaying that tape. Everyone probably wondered what happened to little Mr. Pacey and Miss Jacobs tape. Well, I'll tell you, it's probably in Joey's bedroom. She's just replaying it at night. Like, ooh, those biceps. I love those biceps. Look at those big biceps. Like, okay, like, I would do the same thing. Every time I look at Pacey, I'm like, like, why can't I find a guy that looks like that? I'm like, oh wait, because all of them are popular if they look like that. Scene 2 of Joey. We then see Joey doing a presentation, and guess who came into the room? Guess. Not tomorrow. Thank God. Not Pacey, sadly. But it was Abby Morgan, which this is the first time you will be hearing her on this podcast. And you are in for a treat, my friends. She is very, very much my personality deep in my head. Like, she just has everything she says out loud. I'm like, I got you, girl. I got you. But she is a little bit of a bitch, not gonna lie. But other than that, she's perfectly fine. Don't worry, guys. Joey then continues on whatever she's talking about. I think she's talking about, like, shotguns. I can't really remember. The whole time that I was rewatching this, I'm like, what exactly is she talking about? Which I could have done, like, I could have looked up what she was looking up. But somehow I'm like, I am so happy I don't have to do this presentation, because this whole scene describes probably what would happen at my school. She then what she's doing, and the football player that looked shocked on what she was saying, but Joey continues, and the same boy goes, I have a question. Did you say 600 chicks own one servant to one dude? Which the other boys were snickering in the background, and Joey says, I did not say chicks, but yes. And the guy goes, does this mean sexual service? And the teacher was like, Grant. And he's like, stop. And Joey says, yes. And she continues presenting, and the guy goes, hello over here. And Joey says she can take questions after the presentation, Grant. And he says, right, did the have to dodge the shotgun, and all the other guys started laughing, and the teacher goes and tries to get them to calm down, like, hey, stop it. And Joey says, it was a great pleasure to be chosen by the shotgun. And then the guy goes, so the shotgun was a stunt. Every chick wanted a piece of him. And Joey says, no, they did not want a piece of him. And Grant goes, sound like they did to me. And she goes with her hands on her hips, that's because you have a low IQ. Joey, we love Joey in this. Okay, so what I want to recap on this scene, I just want to recap Joey's personality in this. And this is probably the first time that we ever seen Joey at school by herself. There was no Dawson in this scene, there was no Pacey in this scene, there was no Jen in this scene, and we got to see Joey's personality towards other people. And I like the part where she goes, I didn't say chicks. Don't know why I started laughing when I first started, like, seeing this scene again, because I'm like, Joey, your personality, it's my inner soul over here, like Abby Morgan. Then we see scene 1 of Pacey. We see Pacey and Jen at the locker, and Dawson, who's like walking over, la-di-da-di-da, sees how touchy Pacey is and looks so confused. By the way, again, this is not tomorrow, because there is no tomorrow. Like, bye-bye, Miss Jacobs, we didn't like you. I'm so happy that I don't have to say anything about Pacey and Miss Jacobs anymore. I told someone, I'm so happy that this is done, because I'm tired of myself screaming at Pacey through my TV screen, and I'm like, no, Pacey, don't do that anymore, like, stop doing that. And then I just come on here and I start screaming, which is understandable, because if you've ever seen Dawson's Creek, you know that's not our Pacey. That was just him, like, having, like, some type of rebellion stage. And again, I never understood, and I probably never will, why we never saw Pacey's dad's reaction, because that will forever bug me. Then see Pacey say, we called him Oompa Loompa, which honestly, Pacey was acting like any best friend. I have done this before, because he was basically telling Jen, like, this is what we used to call him, like, back in the good old days. Jen being like, oh my goodness, that's so funny. She was like, what's that? And Pacey explains, from the guy from the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the green kid who stirs the chocolate. And Jen laughs at this and says, no way. And Pacey lifts up his hands and says, I swear. But then we see Dawson saying, hey guys, which ruined the mood, Dawson. I hate when that happens, when you're like trying to embarrass your best friend in front of like their boyfriend and girlfriend, which is any typical best friend relationship. If you have not done this to your best friend, who even are you? And of course, Dawson wants to know, what the heck is so funny? And Pacey says, nothing, nada, and Jen smiles at Dawson as Pacey laughs. Dawson again asks what's so funny, which is such a me thing. And Jen says, it's nothing, Dawson. Don't worry about it. But when does Dawson ever not worry about it? Pacey then says, hey, get pumped, Dawson. It's your favorite time of the day. Gym time! And he says, I think we're playing b-ball today. Remember that one? The one that got the hoop in the air, right with the ball? His hand expressions in this just makes the whole scene even better. And Dawson says, yeah, I know how to play basketball, Pacey. And Pacey wraps his arms around Dawson and goes, I know you do, sport. Okay. But this is really random, but when I saw this again, I was like thinking of The Great Gatsby, because I was reading it in class today, and the whole time, the Gatsby, I have no idea what happens in the end, and I kind of do, but I kind of don't. I know what happens, but I'm like, I don't know how it happens, you know what I'm trying to say? And the whole time, Gatsby was like, sport, 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 sports. sports, old sport, I think that's what he said. And finally Tom was like, no, you don't. Like, don't call me that. But that's what it reminds me of when Dawson, like, hears this. And Pacey then puts his hand on Dawson's chest while saying, just don't kick the ball, and don't hit it with the baseball bat. And Jen starts to laugh, and Dawson tells him to leave, which honestly I would expect Dawson to, like, shove Pacey, but that does not happen, kind of. And Pacey goes, Roger Dodger, and slams the locker and gets his bag. I love how, as he was leaving, he put his hands on Jen's head, and Jen was smiling. And I never seen Pacey like this. Again, like, the first 6 episodes were so strange, and it was so unlike Pacey. And it was nice to see Jen laughing about this, because I never seen Jen laughing like this. And I know we're not focusing on Jen, but as they're, like, walking away, Jen was like, that's so nice, like, I like laughing with Pacey, and I love that scene so much, because I will say this for the 1000th time, I love Jen and Pacey's relationship. It's honestly, the two balance each other out for a little bit, especially in season 3, if you know what I'm saying. But it's like the two of them really needed each other at certain times. And since Jen had problems with her parents and Pacey had problems with his parents and family, the two just came together and it made a really great friendship up until the end. And I will forever be grateful for a television friendship like this. Then see scene 2 of Pacey. Pacey and Dawson were in the gym locker room. Pacey then tossed Dawson, did you know the cheerleaders are doing splits in the gymnasium? How am I supposed to play ball with a distraction like that? And then Dawson asked what him and Jen were laughing about. Pacey says, dude, you're fixated on that. Move on. I love how Pacey's just straight up honest, because Joey probably would have been like, probably been the same reaction, but probably been a little bit nicer to him. He's like, move on. Dawson says, obviously if you won't tell me then you're talking trash about me. And Pacey goes, hey, I don't talk trash, I recycle. And Dawson says whatever as Pacey closes his locker. Then Dawson tells him that Jen already told him what happened, and Pacey goes, no she didn't. And Dawson was like, yeah, huh? And Pacey was like, she did? And Dawson again was like, yeah. Pacey then says, I guess that's cool. Oompa Loompa isn't the worst nickname. And Dawson suddenly gets all mad, like, you told her people call me Oompa Loompa? And Pacey was like, it's not such a big deal. Someone was bound to tell her sooner or later. And then he goes, hey, she thought it was cute. She really did. And my favorite scene of Pacey at the time was probably when he put his hand on Dawson's shoulder and says, Dawson, you aren't a little Oompa Loompa anymore. You're a big, bad, manly Oompa Loompa. And Dawson shoves Pacey while Pacey just laughs and smiles. And then we see the end of that scene. Again, if you have not then see scene 3 of Joey. We then see Joey looking at the fish sticks at the cafeteria, and I guess she asked for them, but I couldn't really tell. Joey, being Joey, not being like Emily, does not tolerate this, and she goes, hey, Lumberjack, there is a line, and it starts back there. And Grant, being the jock, goes, look who it is. I did your report, Joey. I got a lot out of it. It was very strange. And Joey goes, yeah, well, you were a great help. Grant goes, oh, but he especially liked it when she called him stupid, which, again, did not call him stupid. She said, he had a low IQ, not stupid. So point taken, he is kind of stupid and he does not listen. And I love it when chicks tease me. It turns me on. Joey then tells him that this may come as a shock to you. Take steroids does not mean he gets to barge in line whenever you want. And she goes, people have been waiting in line and it's rude. And Grant goes, are you kidding? Did I just go in front of you? And she goes, yeah, you did. And Grant goes, fellas, we cut in line. God, I feel so terrible. You understand, don't you? It's kind of like your report. And as he's kind of like saying all this, the guys behind him was like laughing. And I just hate that so much. Joey then goes, excuse me? And Grant goes, like the shotguns. And this school is our castle. Whatever we want, we get. And Joey goes, oh really? And Grant goes, you can either be my servant, and pushes her hair back, or my cocky bone. So what will it be? And Joey was like, neither. She then hits him and throws her tray at the guy behind him, and then punches Grant as she comes up, and she went, neither, as Grant lays there on the floor. I just like how she hits the guy behind him too. Like, she didn't go for like one guy, but she went for like both guys. And I like how at the end she was like smiling at how proud she was with herself, and then she realized that everyone else in the cafeteria could see her, and she was kind of embarrassing herself, and so she like stopped smiling and went, oh crap, what have I done? Because the teachers were coming over. Pacey. We then see the cheerleaders and everyone playing basketball. And Pacey says to Dawson, let's get a little one-on-one. And Dawson goes, what, why? And Pacey says, because he's on a roll with the ladies, and take it on me. You don't get any play when you're sitting on the bench. I see you, Pacey. I see you trying to get those ladies because you can't get Miss Jacobs anymore. Dawson then explains how he's hungry and he wants to eat lunch, and Pacey was like, it's only going to be for a couple points. I will buy you lunch. Well, let's not get crazy. I'll buy you a fruit cup. Dawson then walks away, and Pacey says, all right, I'll buy you lunch, huh? And he hands him the basketball, and we see Dawson roll his eyes, which he was just scared of losing. Let's face the big facts over here. We then see Dawson and Pacey playing basketball, and of course, Pacey shooting the ball into the hoop, and then teases Dawson with the ball, like, you want this, you want this, you want this? And then we see him shoot the basketball into net, and Pacey goes, he shoots, he scores, crowd goes wild. Which, Pacey, you are a full mood right there. Then we see Pacey go up to Dawson and said, you know, Dawson, I'm really kicking your ass. And Dawson says, if he wants to impress the cheerleaders, he should go do it somewhere else, because I'm out. Then we see Pacey go, come on, man, I need you. You make me look good. And Dawson's like, how'd I do that? And Pacey says, you suck worse than I do. And Dawson walks away. But then Pacey says, miracles happen all the time. And he tells him to pass the ball, Oompa Loompa. Oh no, Pacey. And Dawson's like, what did you just call me? And Pacey was like, I said, check it out, Oompa Loompa. God. Oh no. And then we see Pacey go, hey ladies, I love what you're doing right there. But Dawson's like, oh heck no. And then throws the ball at Pacey's face. And then we see Pacey laying there on the ground with all the cheerleaders around him, which is going to be very important for later, because I wonder what happens there. But Dawson was like, oh my goodness, what did I just do? As the teacher's like, you get detention. But I'm sure Pacey was like, thank you, man. This is what I meant by lots of attention. I love my broken nose right now. I love this. I love this all touchy feeling stuff. Scene 4 of Pacey. We then see Pacey sitting in the library as Jen comes in with Dawson, and we see Dawson ask, what are you doing here? Which I want to point out, Dawson still has no clue what he did was completely wrong, because as Jen was like explaining why Dawson was here, Dawson was like, yeah, like, I know, la-di-da-di-da, and I just don't understand why guys do this, and girls do it too. Girls do it completely differently, because when Dawson was trying to handle his anger by throwing the basketball, he really failed at it in so many different ways, because, like, I can understand why Dawson threw it. Like, I would probably do the same thing, not gonna lie, if I was a guy, or I probably would have been, like, storming off or yelling or something, because when I'm mad, I'm mad. I did it today, where I was so mad, I was like, I need to calm down. Can I go to the bathroom? Because I cannot deal with this. I was in a restaurant, and it's Cinco de Mayo day. And we're at the Mexican restaurant. My stepmom was talking about moving. My dad's, like, agreeing. And then my stepmom said something that just really gets on my nerves. She was like, I was talking about how I would love to have a wood floor. And I'm like, that sounds so much better. And my stepmom was like, well, wood scratches. And you're only gonna have a bed. And I go, a bed? And she goes, yeah, a bed. And then it didn't hit me until a little bit, like a minute later, and I was like, only a bed? And my stepmom was like, yeah, because the room's gonna be small, because they're talking about moving next year. And it really kind of, like, hit me a little bit, because I've been living in the same house for about 13 years, so I'm like Dawson at this moment, where I'm like, this could go two ways, and my anger is about to boil up, or I'm about to yell at this lady in the middle of a Mexican restaurant on Cinco de Mayo day when everyone was, like, crowded around. I felt so awkward, and I was already, like, feeling super nauseous all day long, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And I put my mask, I hold my mask over, like, my mouth, I don't even put it on, and I ran to the bathroom, and I just started sobbing. So if that does not describe my mood when I am mad. And then it happened again. I made a whole pros and cons list, and I showed my dad, and my last point was, why the hell did I, and then my dad's like, what were you going to say there? And I was like, why the hell did I not get my permit sooner? And my dad just started laughing at me because I don't talk like that. And he's like, I didn't even know, like, you could talk like that. So my point in saying all this was, it made complete sense why Dawson didn't handle his anger correctly. And as we see Pacey looking up and seeing Jen goes over to him and goes, oh my god, Pacey, look at you. And Dawson, the kind-hearted person that he was at this moment, was like, how's your nose? Because in that moment, he feels so guilty. Like, when I walked out at the restaurant after my dad looked at the list, and I was just mad, and I was just blasting Taylor Swift in my eardrums. I'm right where he left me. I think that's what the song was. And I was just angry, and I'm like, I just don't understand why I cannot get in this place. And that's how Dawson was feeling, because he feels guilty now after doing it, and I felt guilty after when I saw my dad, like, walking over to me, and I still haven't talked to him. And when you're that type of person, this may give you guys a little understanding of what Dawson is like, but when you're that type of person, it's so hard to be okay with the fact that things are changing, things are happening, you may not always get what you want. And it's so hard to understand, especially when you're a teenager, because things are happening and you have no control over what you're gonna do. I mean, you kind of do, but in another sense, like, when you're still learning all these different type of things, it makes sense that you're not going to understand it. And I love Pacey's answer to this. He goes, broken, thanks. Jen goes, wow, that must really hurt. And then she's about to touch it, and Pacey's like, hey, don't. And I just love the fact that she was going to touch it. Jen then goes, that really sucks. And says, tell me about it. And Dawson looks away because, again, he looks really guilty in this scene because there was nothing that he could have handled. That's what is he in for? And Pacey goes, it's a long, long story. And Dawson laughs and then sits on the table while saying they got 8 hours. And Jen starts to say, this isn't like any other Saturday, but there is a voice in the background. And let's play the guessing game again. Guess who it is? Guess who it is? It's Abby Morgan. And Dawson looks at Pacey, who looks absolutely horrified, and I don't know why that's hilarious to me, and says, oh my god, that sounds like Abby Morgan. And Jen goes, who's Abby Morgan? And Pacey says, you never met Abby Morgan? Which, Pacey, she's only been there for probably a few weeks. And Jen shakes her head, and Dawson says, she is a girl from hell, literally. And I love how Pacey puts his hand on Jen's arm. Like, at first I had to really rewind this part, because I love how he's just like, brace yourself, woman. We then see Abby talking about why she isn't supposed to be here. And then Pacey turns to look at Abby, like, why are you here? Abby then stops talking, and then she sees Jen, Dawson, and Pacey, and she goes, oh god, great. Howdy doody time. We then see the librarian say this isn't about fun and games, and they should think about why they are here. She then says someone is missing, which leads me to my next scene. A lot of you guys are saying that the episodes are a little bit too long, so this is your halfway point, and I want to remind you that if you feel like it's too long and you can't finish it right now, come back to it tomorrow, but if not, then continue listening to what I have to say. We then see scene 1 of Pacey and Joey. Finally, after all of this happened, after all of the murder and detention, it's fate! Finally, we see a real episode of Pacey and Joey. We then see Joey walking in as Mrs. Trinkle says someone is missing, and Joey goes, me, I'm here. And Dawson is like, Joey? While Pacey and Jim look kind of like, what in the world? But I love how Pacey just scoffs. Like, he doesn't really say anything, but as soon as he sees Joey and Dawson goes, Joey? He just goes, like, of course she's here. Of course she's here. And Joey asks if this is some sort of surprise party. And Pacey goes, oh yeah, surprise, break up. And then the librarian told her to sit down because she is the only one left. The librarian tells all of them that if she has to come out here, and they will have to shelve books and do library cards, which I love how Pacey, again, scoffs at this. We then hear her say, after 8 hours, you were going to be just like family. And Abby goes, 8 hours? This isn't detention. Saturday school. Like, they say it's detention, but I only had detention one time. And the reason why, you're probably like, Emily, you sound like a good kid. Why the heck did you get detention? My friend, that's a good question. Because the only reason why I got detention was, well, I was kind of skipping class when I did this, but I got detention because I emailed a teacher the word hell. And actually, this teacher from Dawson's Creek reminds me of my librarian from 6th and 7th grade, because she looks just like her with the glasses, and, well, my librarian had gray hair, and I can picture her in my mind. And oh my goodness, that just creeps me out. And the reason why I got detention was because I emailed my youth pastor the word hell, because I didn't know whether I was going to go to heaven or hell. And the computer picked up on that. Of course it did. And I got called to the principal's office, and they're like, why did you do this? And la-di-da-di-da, you have detention. And the whole time I was in detention, I had to write this big, thing, I will not say the word hell. I don't even know what I wrote, but it was basically I will not write the word hell, I will not write this, and I had to sit there for an hour or so. And I remember that when I got back, I was having a sleepover. My dad was not happy about that. I was in a position in my life from 9 to 13, I want to say, maybe 14, where I did not get the fact that this is a real life, this is a real world, and everything that I'm living in is gonna haunt me later in life. And so when I had detention, I just remember coming back and being so that literally did nothing to me. And I also got ISS, which was basically 8 hours of sitting in a classroom and doing all my work. And I remember my teacher's face when he saw me. And the reason why I got, what did I do? I cheated on a vocabulary quiz. That's what I did. And I remember one of my teachers walked up to me and they were like, Emily, you're such a good kid. I don't understand what happened. And I was like, I didn't study. That's what happened. And it's just funny to me because middle school was so strict. And I remember my teacher being like, you're a failure because you got a 0 because you cheated. And I'm like, thanks. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate it. So I just don't understand why the heck it's 8 hours long. We then hear Abby goes, 8 hours? We're going to murder each other. And Pacey, Joey, and Dawson have the same expression on their face, and I love how the librarian replies was not to get blood on any of the books. And that's all you're gonna say? Yeah, I feel like that's such a teacher answer. I would say that if I'm a teacher. Abby then asks if anyone wants gum, and Joey and Dawson were like, yeah, I would love some. And Abby laughs at this and tells them, yeah, right. Then she goes, oh my god, Pacey, what did you do to your knee? And she's like, get in a car accident while picking your nose? Pacey then goes, no, actually, this chunk right over here threw a basketball at my face. And Abby goes, you should be thanking him. Can't get worse than it did before. And Pacey just rolls his eyes, shaking his head. It reminds me of Nellie. The first scene that we see of Pacey and Dawson, where that girl Nellie goes, you're just like the Alice in Wonderland. Whew. Well, of course she didn't say Alice in Wonderland, but that's what it reminds me of. And after asking Dawson if he was in here for manslaughter, asked Pacey if he was in here for damaging his face. Pacey then makes this funny face that looks like haha, and Dawson says he won't tell. Abby then goes, ooh, must be embarrassing. What did you do? Make up some other pocket story about sleeping with the teacher? And I hate this so much that Pacey he's just like, well, I don't know what to say there. And we see Dawson looking up, and Pacey says, no, it's none of your business. So sadly, I hate this scene so much. It breaks my heart, because we never really see Pacey ever talk about Tamara after she leaves, but there are certain times in this episode where you can tell it really did affect him, because this 36-year-old woman came over, slept with him, messed with his feelings, and now she's gone, and he has to deal with the consequences all by himself. And Abby, instead of, going sorry or whatever, she goes, secrets drive me crazy. And then we see Joey's face as Abby continues to tell Pacey to tell them what happened. And she goes, you're so cool. Keep your boring little secret. Then we see Joey say, and then Abby asks Jen what she was here for, and Jen says that she called someone a bitch. And Joey then goes, I'm sorry, Jen. Must be hard for you putting up with. And Jen says, that's not what I meant. And Joey says, must be a real bitch for ya. Joey's inner cat fight came in, and even as soon as I said that, I kind of forgot that Abby goes, "Rah, cat fight," and then walks over to Joey and says, "What did you do? What about you? Why are you in here, Joey? Not surprised. Incarceration does seem to run in your family." Then Jen says, "I think you're the bitch, Abby." And Abby goes, "If you want to hang out with these black sheeps, don't let me stop you." Meanwhile, Abby's only in here for late excessive tardies. I think that's hilarious. Like, at the end of the episode, why we figure out Abby's here. We then see scene 2 of Pacey and Joey. We then hear Joey say that I slugged Grant Bowden. Pacey stops what he's doing and looks up at Joey. He's flipping through some type of book or magazine, which I don't really know what exactly Pacey is reading because he doesn't really read anything, but I think he was just trying to look busy. And then he looks up and then looks back down like, "I'm interested, I hear what you're saying." Nah, it's Joey. Abby goes, "No way, is that why he left early?" And Joey says, "Yeah." And Abby goes, "Oh, come on. That's romantic, even for you." Pacey then starts to put the book away, while Abby goes, Grant Bowden is the king of the school, and a total fox. Why did they put me in here with all you violent offenders? Probably because all of you guys got detention." And Dawson says, "What did you do, Abby?" And Joey was like, "Yeah." And Abby says, "Don't go there, Dawson." And all of them start to get up, and I love how all of them are walking over, and Pacey goes, "Abby, we can handle this one." And she goes, "I don't think you can handle Pinocchio." I don't know why I love that so much. And Pacey says, "Oh, really? Lay one on me." And she goes, "Okay. Have you ever heard of the boys' locker room?" And Pacey and Dawson nod, while Joey and Jen were kind of quiet there. Joey just kind of looks on the other side. And she said, "Have you ever heard of a little drug called ecstasy?" And all of them nod. And and Abby bites her lip and says, "Have you ever heard of an orgy?" And Pacey's face in this was absolutely hilarious because he's like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." And she says that all she could say was, "Some people aren't scared of showing pleasure." And she goes, "She doesn't kiss and tell," and that's all she can say. And sorry, and Pacey nodded his head this isn't true at all. I love how Pacey's reaction to all of this, while everyone else was just like, "What?" He was bold enough to get up there, and it just shows Pacey's personality. We then see scene 3 of Pacey and Joey. We then see them all in the library, and Dawson is like, "This reminds me of the Breakfast Club." And Jen was like, "What's that?" Which, I haven't seen the Breakfast Club. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but there were so many references of the Breakfast Club. There's Pitch Perfect, Victorious, and I'm sure there's plenty of other ones, but this one is very ironic because, well, you'll see. And Dawson explains how, in the movie there are 5 kids that are stuck in detention all day, and Joey goes, "At first they hated each other, but then they became really good friends." And Joey's face when she says, "Forever," they forever become really good friends. Oh. Joey's face in this one will forever crack me up, because she goes, how she said good friends, good friends, but not me and you, Jen. Jen asks what happened to those actors, and Dawson explains, there's this person, I honestly did not listen to Dawson, because Dawson just talks and talks and talks about movies, and I'm like, good for you, Dawson. Then we see one of my favorite scenes with Pacey, and he goes, I can never pronounce his name, Emilio Estevez. That's his name. Duck movies, remember? He goes, God, those were classic. So funny. As he is laughing, and then everyone looks at him like, what in the world? And he goes, what? The reason why this scene is so funny to me is because when he said Ducks movie, the person that played the coach from the Mighty Ducks was in the Breakfast Club, which I did not realize this. I did not put the connection together until a very long time later when I was watching it. I was watching this episode with one of my best friends, and also I want to point out that they are doing a new Mighty Ducks series, and I don't know what to think about that, guys. I really don't, because I don't think they're going to add Joshua Jackson in there, but let's cross our fingers that Joshua Jackson takes a little break from Dr. Death, which, if you have not seen anything about Dr. Death, it's based off a real show, which I was honestly shocked about. Younger Joshua Jackson, so freaking cute. I don't know what, when he's I think 13, he said, he looks so cute. And then he grows up a little bit older in the second and third movie. Oh, my heart, it's I can, now I'm younger Pacey is a lot more attracted than Dawson. So, I'm just saying, Joey, you really messed up there. And see scene 4 of Pacey and Joey. First, Jen says, my best friend in New York, her older sister, babysit Allie Shetty, and Joey goes, oh, you mean, somebody who knows Allie Shetty? And Abby goes, yeah, Jen, you're just so glamorous. And Jen goes, oh, well, we can't always be like you, Abby, and have ecstasy game bangs on the floor locker room. And then Abby goes, Mrs. Tringle. And Jen goes, oh, come on. I feel so bad for Jen. Because the whole time, she's only been here for, a few weeks. And now she has to deal with, Abby and Jen, Abby and Joey, all in the same place. So that's great for Jen. I'm sure she loved that. We then see Abby tell Mrs. Tringle, who was what? That she has a bladder and is about to burst, and can she be excused? We then see Abby and Joey and Jen and Pacey and Dawson all walk to the bathroom, and Abby says she's surprised that Mrs. Tringle isn't following them into the stalls. And then we see a scene where Dawson and Pacey were using the bathroom, and I love this one so much, because Dawson looks over and looks at Pacey and just kind of smiles at him, while Pacey just looks over at him and just glares at him so badly, and then he finishes what he's doing and leaves and walks away. He doesn't say, there's nothing happening over here. And then we see Abby in the bathroom putting on lipstick, and she says, I may be reaching, but I think there's some type of weird sexual tension thing that's going on. Am I right? And then the toilet flushes. We then see scene 5 of Pacey and Joey. I love this scene so much because we finally see them close together, and it points out my very good point that I have made, that even though these two claim to hate each other, they spend a lot of time together. Because I didn't understand the fact why Dawson and Joey weren't hanging out a lot, but I get it because Jen was there. But we see Pacey and Joey studying together, and I liked that. It warmed my heart a little bit because it kind of showed how Joey really did care for Pacey, even from the beginning, or how Pacey cared for Joey and what she would like to do. And I always wonder how that conversation started. Did he ask for help for homework, or was there something that they need to get done together? I always wonder why are they studying together? And Abby goes, I'm so bored. And Pacey says, really? We can get your ecstasy, Abby. And, we can go down to the boys' bathroom. Well, we can get to the boys' locker room. And his expression in this, oh my gosh, is that she doesn't have any. And even if she did, she wouldn't waste it on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And Pacey goes, you're not gonna let Rudolph join in any of your forbidden games. I like his little pout when he says this. And the whole time, Joey's face just looks very entertained by all this, like, looking back at Pacey, looking back at Abby, looking back at Pacey. And then he goes, and then Abby goes, I want to play a game. And Pacey says, really? What you want to play? Pin a tail on the hoe back, huh? It says she wants to play Truth or Dare. And Jen and Dawson go like, no. And she goes, please, I'll be your best friend. I used to like when girls say that. Like, I kind of still say it. Like, please, I'll be your best friend. It's such like a scene 6 of Pacey and Joey. Abby then says that that they can ask her anything, and she swears to tell the truth and only the truth. And Dawson says no. But I love how Pacey is just walking with Joey, like, falling behind him. I don't know why that, like, really got my attention. That's what I was focusing on. Probably because it was them too. Abby then goes, come on, Dawson. And is there anything that you want to hear that you always wanted to ask me? And Dawson goes, yeah. Are you an alien, or in what planet are you from? And Abby goes, no, in Earth. Okay, my turn. I love how Pacey's just rolling his eyes, but Joey's just studying Abby. Abby then goes, I want to ask Pacey. And she goes, I want to ask Pacey. And Pacey just rolls his eyes. And Joey is staring at him as Pacey says, alright, Abby. Just remember, it's my turn next. And Abby goes, oh, I'm so scared. Truth or dare, Pacey? Pacey says, dare. I don't care. And she goes, fine. Truth. Pacey, why are you in detention? And I love how Joey folds her arm and looks at Pacey upside down like, why are you in detention? And Pacey just, like, looks at her like, he just stares at her while everyone else was staring at him. And I don't know why that was so funny to me. And Pacey goes, well, you see, I want to dare. And Joey goes, oh, come on, Pacey. And then Pacey says, hey, I want to dare. And Abby goes, and Abby dares him to kiss on the lips. Joey! I'm kidding. It was Jen. And Joey looks entertained by all this, and Jen says no one wants to play this game, and Joey goes, I do. Which I wish Abby just suddenly went like, yeah, like, since Joey wants to play this game, why don't you two kiss? Because we know that's gonna get Dawson's attention. I'm not kidding. Like, literally any time that Pacey wanted Joey, or someone else wanted Joey, besides the guy with AJ, he didn't want him to. He didn't really care at that point. He was like, bye-bye, I'm not your friend anyway. And while Pacey was like, gee, are you worried about this? Like, this is the college guy. I always like how Pacey goes, college guy? Anyway. And Pacey says, fine. What do I care? And then we see this kiss from Jen and Pacey. And Pacey is just staring at Dawson half the time. And then he closes his eyes and continues to kiss Jen. Which, I think this kiss was actually more intense than the kiss that's coming up. Because, like, there was some sparks going on, and even Abby knew that. And Joey kind of knew that because Joey was smirking, and I think she was like, ooh, maybe Dawson won't like Jen anymore because Pacey may steal her. And then Pacey gets done with the kiss, and he goes, like wipes his lips and stuff. That's how you know it's an intense kiss. And Pacey says, okay, Joey, miss, you better do what she says. What will it be? Truth or dare? Joey tries to fight him, but Pacey holds up his fingers. And again, this is my point. I said this on the first episode. Pacey does not tolerate. Like, he knows how to handle Joey. And I don't know why it's my favorite thing about Pacey and Joey. But, like, it's not like the simple, like, he doesn't know how to handle her. Because he does. Like, I think he knows how to handle her more than how Dawson knows how to handle her. And it goes back to the last episode where they were both sitting on that bench and he was just listening to what she had to say to him and listening and trying to figure out what she was trying to get at and how she was trying to get there. And I think when he holds up his finger and says, it really shows how Pacey and Joey were as, like, before they got together. Like, he knew how to handle her. That was the thing. And he goes, truth or dare? And Joey rolls her eyes and says truth, and he says, okay, who do you like? And she goes, who do I like? And Pacey says, yes, easy question. Who are you in love with? And then folds his arms and looks at Dawson, who is completely clueless about the whole situation. But Jen, however, is not and knows what Pacey's trying to get at. Joey looks so cute. She is smiling at Pacey, and she says, did I say truth? I meant dare. A dare. Again, Abby makes a comment by saying, y'all are wimps. Joey then says, I will do anything. I will climb up through the innovation or go find Miss Tringle. And Pacey says, perfect. Keeping our kissing theme, Joey, I dare you to kiss on the lips for 15 seconds. Pacey was there! Just kidding, it was Dawson and Larry again. We're all disappointed by this. And Joey says, no way. But she's smiling at Dawson, big as can be. Like, no way. And Dawson tells Pacey to grow up. Which, again, kind of proves that Dawson never really liked Joey. And as soon as episode 10, I believe, hits, y'all know what happens there with the double date, where Pacey kisses Joey, and then all of a sudden, he wants Joey, and it just does not make sense. And this proves that Dawson does not like Joey whatsoever. And I think it's a big deal to Joey, but what really gets my attention is the fact that Pacey always knew that Joey loved Dawson. And it wasn't a secret to Pacey, and it showed how he was there the whole entire time watching these two try to figure out what's happening here. And it makes me kind of like a little bit uncomfortable because I know what's going to happen at the end of the series, but I think it really does show how Pacey was trying to get Joey and Dawson to move forward. And the whole time that them two weren't together, like, you can see, like, there were times here and there as the show got on, like, you can kind of see, like, him, like, falling for Joey, even though they're too stubborn to even admit that they're falling for each other later in the show, but, like, season 5 and season 6. But never once, well, there were a few times, that Pacey didn't encourage Joey to go to Dawson. And there's another example with this. In season 5, where there was a funeral going on, if you know what that is, you know what that is. And Pacey figures out that there's a thing going on between Dawson and Joey, which obviously he knew, but Dawson decided to drop out of the college that he was going to so that way he could be with Joey. And Pacey was like, what? And Joey was kind of getting all nervous, and he's like, you can tell me, Joey, like, it's completely fine. And she's like, I didn't ask him to do it, that's what you're intending. And he was like, no, like, that's not what I'm saying. And he was like, this world deserves more Romeo and Juliets. Which, I like how he said Romeo and Juliet, because this world does not need more Romeo and Juliets. That's a good description of Dawson and Joey. But my point in saying that was, there were so many times where, like this scene, Pacey always encouraged Joey to go to Dawson. And I believe, in my opinion, that the reason why he did this was kind of to show Joey that, like, maybe not really, but, like, to show Joey that Dawson never really, like, noticed her in a lot of ways until they kiss. And, in my opinion, it was kind of like, again, kind of like Pacey pushing them a little bit and saying, here you go, this is what you need to do. And then see Joey then say, come here, Dawson, as Pacey slides away, and Pacey is smirking the whole entire time as Abby said, I'll keep the time. And then we see the kiss. That is not, I mean, it's intense, but Pacey and Jen's kiss was more, like, intense, and there was nothing going on between there. See, as the whole time they were kissing, he was just smiling away, and when they were done, Pacey laughs at this, and Abby was like, are we having fun yet? And all of them just stare at her, and Jen then says, let's play a game. We then see scene 7 of Pacey and Joey. We then see them all sneaking away while Miss Trinkle watches her show. And Joey and Pacey are once again behind each other, like, just following each other. Again, Abby is like, we're gonna get caught. And Jen says, Mrs. Trinkle, tape Days of Our Lives, which means she is gonna be there for another hour and a half. And I took a screenshot of Pacey's face because he looks so concerned. Like, how do you know this? Like, how do you know it's gonna be for another hour and a half? And he then kind of rolls his eyes, but I just like this. Joey asks, what are they doing out here? And Jen says, we're gonna play Guess My Butt. And then, fast forward a little bit, we see Pacey on the copy machine, his pants down, which I always thought in my head, I'm like, did Joey have her pants down playing Guess My Butt? Because, like Pacey said, she's a very much a prude, so I'm like, I wonder how that situation went. And I love how Pacey is just so happy, but he gets to, like, pull down his pants. And I saw this interview with Katie Holmes saying that Joshua Jackson moons everybody. And so I guess it wasn't a problem for him to play this part right here. And he's doing all this with the coffee machine. Joey pushes her hair back like Debbie Ryan as Pacey says, that felt good. And then Joey rolls her eyes. But Joey, I see you. First looking at his biceps, definitely looking at his joystick, and now looking at his butt. Pants up, and now they play Guess My Butt. Abby says, this has to be mine. And Jen says, this has to be Pacey. And Dawson asks, how do you know? And Pacey then says, she checked it out. And Dawson says, don't make me ill. And Pacey says, she can't help herself. He goes, I mean, my butt, it's really like a chick magnet. Chicks, they can't keep their eyes off of it. And I love how all the girls were laughing at him and smiling. And Dawson then says, "You're pathetic." And Dawson goes, "You're just jealous." And Dawson goes, "Like, of you?" And Pacey was saying how this is why he threw the basketball at his nose, and why you're acting like such a little puke today. Jen tries to stop the two, and Pacey says how Dawson is jealous of him because he's a better athlete and he has a better sex life. Which, sure, Pacey, sure. Continue telling yourself that you have a better sex life. And Dawson says, "You are the real Don Juan." And then Pacey says, "At least my nickname was never Oompa Loompa." And that's where Dawson, boom, he just explodes. And Dawson says, "The sad reality, Pacey, is that you were never good at anything. You are a total failure, and may I mention the laughing talk of the school." And Jen tells him to chill, and Pacey said, I never knew what a basketball could do to lose a man's ego." And how he said that just broke my heart. Okay, so let's talk about Dawson first. First, he calls him a total failure, and he's not good at anything. Okay, so Dawson, let's take a minute here and figure out which color are you. I explain this to 4-year-olds. Are you red, are you green, or are you yellow? He would be red right now, because this really shows Dawson's personality when he gets angry. It goes back to the Mexican restaurant where I just walk away when I'm angry. I'm trying to learn that. It takes me a long time to learn that. When things aren't going my way, I don't say anything. But it took me a long time to get there, and I'm still struggling with it. But no way in hell would I ever tell someone that they are a total failure and laugh and talk at the school and they're not good at anything. Will I say it behind their backs? Heck yeah, I will. But will I say it to their face? Absolutely not. Because it's completely, it's not disrespectful, but in a lot of ways it really is, because you're basically telling your best friend, hey, you're not good at anything. And I know, for me, like, whenever I'm talking about my best friend, I would say this to their face, and I do, like, I literally say this to their face. And today, for example, after the moving thing happened, my best friend, she asked me, hey, we can tour at this college, and maybe during spring break next year. And I tell her, like, I was getting out of a panic attack, so I couldn't, and it was through text, like, you can't hear someone when you're texting. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, like, I'm planning on moving here, and with my family, and it just wouldn't make sense to go there, and if I'm either going to stay here in Tennessee, or I'm going to go to Florida. And she goes, okay, like, alright. And I said, like, it's not really my choice, but at the same time, it's kind of like trying to see how I'll get there, you know what I'm saying? And she goes, that makes sense. And I didn't say anything back, because I didn't see it for a few hours. And I don't understand why she does this, but she does this a lot, where she'll, like, take what I say and, like, kind of post it on her story, and I call her out on it. I'm like Pacey, or if my best friend's doing something, then I'm gonna call her out on it. And she was like, don't make friends, like, if it's okay if you guys know where you, what does she say? Well, she says, IDK who needs to hear this, but this is your life, so don't worry about what people think about you. Besides, you will probably not see them after high school anyway. And I'm like, girl, he has something to say to me. We've been friends for 7 years. It's not like I'm gonna drop you. But I may be saying this, and next year I could be looking back at this and listening to what I have to say and being like, oh, I kind of figured we would stop talking. Because it's not like I stopped talking to anybody. The only people that I really have stopped talking to is like a few people here and there that I just don't talk to anymore. But I've been going through like this rough patch where I just really don't care about anyone or anything. And I would love to hang out with all my friends every single weekend and have a good time. But it's to the point where, like, if I don't know what's happening with my future and I can't control it, what's the point in it? And, like, my best friend Morgan over here, who posted on her story, this is 2021, but this is 1998, and so they have Instagram stories where you could talk behind their back. And like I said, like, I'm much like Dawson, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna call my best friend Morgan a loser, and for saying this, like, I politely told her, like, this isn't my fault, like, I can't control this, and I wanted to send her a voice memo so bad, being like, girl, like, this ain't my fault, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's really hard when you have a best friend who doesn't encourage you half the time, and that was my whole point in saying all this, was sometimes there's always gonna be that best friend that does not encourage you, and you have to move on and go from it. But Dawson, this is like the second time ever since Tamara and Pacey, like, had sex, it was like Dawson's mind turned to, oh, Pacey had sex with a teacher, therefore he's not good at anything, and he's a total failure, and he's the laughing stock of the school because he slept with the teacher. You just pointed out all his mishaps and made him feel worse, because the way that Pacey responds to this, he was like, I never knew what it did to a man's ego to lose a basketball game, and it just sounded so dead inside. Then Dawson goes, I didn't lose, and Pacey, again, it sounds really dead inside, goes, want a rematch? And Dawson goes, anytime, anywhere. Which, F you, Dawson. Scene 8 of Pacey and Joey. We then see Pacey shirtless as Dawson talks to Jen on what he is doing. And I just want to say, Pacey Witter, shirtless. My goodness. Whoo, okay. And I like how his boxers, I don't know why I paid attention to this. Well, I kind of do. Joystick. I'm kidding. But we see Pacey's boxers kind of like up there, and it's just funny to me. And Pacey is like, are we gonna do this or what? And Joey's like, ooh, this should be interesting. We then hear Pacey say, alright, Oompa Loompa, this is your moment of truth. And Dawson says, if I win, you gotta tell me why you are Dentition. And Pacey says, me? Lose this? And then I like how he holds up his arm and like kind of like a muscle, like lose this, like lose all his biceps. And I'm sure Dawson was like, it's the biceps, it's the biceps. I can just imagine that. Or Joey like, go Pacey. I like how Joey just knew that this was not gonna go well. If I was saying this is interesting, it's like she kind of knew how Dawson was gonna react, because even from the very beginning, she was like, you don't like to lose. And here Pacey is trying to fight, or like play, just, you know, play a little sweet basketball after getting called a, what's the right word? You're not good enough, you're a total failure, you're the life of talk at school, but like nothing out there, like nothing that serious. And he continues by saying, please, come on, stay off the cracked pal, come on. And I love how Abby, Joey, and Jen were just staring, but Joey was like, as if, like, we see Jen was staring at Pacey's butt, and then Abby was like, ooh la 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 la, and Jen was just like, and Joey was like, this is not gonna end up well. But, Joe, this is your future we're talking about. Like, you see this, Joey? All of this is gonna be the boat instead. Abby then says, Pacey, you're supposed to get it in the net, when he misses, and then it continues, like, they're, like, dribbling the ball and trying to play, and Abby goes, and my dog plays basketball better than you, too. And Joey just smiles up on her. I love that so much, like, the way she was, like, smirking up on Abby, like, you're right, you're probably right. And Jen then says, why do guys want to compete over everything? And Abby goes, oh, yeah, because us sisters never compete over anything. And it goes back to Pacey and Dawson, who was really, really bad at basketball, but now they're basically wrestling on the floor, trying to handle this anger, because they can't. Joey then says that Jen should get some pom-poms and cheer her man on, and Jen had enough and says, Joey, I give up. You win. I keep trying to get you to like me, and there's nothing I could do, is there? And Joey looks down and goes, what do you mean? And then Jen says, she is not a fool. Your little catty comments are not lost on me. What do I do? All I ever do was to try to be your friend. Even Abby sees all of this. She's like, you two are blind, because if they continue fighting over the same guy, then she's just gonna, they're never really gonna connect. Because at the time, I don't know how Jen is so blind in seeing this. Like, how does Jen not realize that Joey's in love with Dawson? Because even from the first episode, like, I could tell that Joey was in love with Dawson. But I guess as the audience, it makes more sense. But I'm like, Jen, do you not understand that the catty comments are actually because she likes Dawson? Just that. Abby tells Joey she can see that she's in love with Dawson. And Jen looks completely shocked by this, like she never even, like, realized this. Joey says, you're wrong. And she said, and then Abby goes, that kiss was like setting out the Atlantic Ocean on fire. Don't tell me I'm wrong about that. That kiss was intense. That kiss was not that intense. That kiss was not that intense, Abby. Like, Abby then says that she's gonna get water because she's parched, and then leaves the two so they could talk. And then we continue to see Pacey and Dawson wrestling, and again, clear view of your future, Joey. You should really look into that. You should really get them to stop wrestling over whatever they were wrestling at that point. And then Jen starts the conversation, and Joey says that she doesn't want to talk about this, at least not with her. And then Jen says that she understood, and Joey was like, why do you have to be like this? And Jen goes, like what? And Joey goes, so nice! God! And as she rubs her head, I can just hear Pacey, literally, in the background say, good luck, Dawson. Don't ask me why, but when I heard this, I automatically wrote it down, because I'm like, hey, Joey, pay a little attention here. Pay attention to what your future has in store for you. And Joey said it would be a lot easier if she was a winch. And Jen says, sorry? And Joey just continues, like, not really paying attention to her, but, like, kind of still mad at her. And she's like, I'll try to be a winch. Jen being so polite. I like how she's like, don't worry, Joey, like, I'll try to be a winch. Meanwhile, like, Pacey and Dawson continue to wrestle on the floor. Abby then says that they need to get back to the library. And Pacey goes, what? And when we see Dawson shoot the basketball, and Pacey says that he cheated, and Abby's over here like panicking, like, guys, if we don't the next 2 minutes, we are doomed. And everyone else starts running to the other side, but Pacey, being Pacey, the smart genius that he is, he goes, hey ladies, locker room is faster. I like how he pays attention to the ladies. And Dawson was like running back with him, like, oh yeah, like locker room is faster. Like, I thought of that idea. When meanwhile, like, Dawson, no. No. No! You did not think of that. Pacey would have thought about that. And they all run like the Breakfast Club. You know how like they're all like running. They run to like that side, and they run to the other side, and they run to this side, and then they're like all scooting over, and then Pacey's like, hey Mrs. Trinkle, how's it hanging? I like that scene so much. And see scene 9 of Pacey and Joey. We then see all of them in the library, and Mrs. Trinkle asked if there is any reason why she shouldn't give them all detention next Saturday. And Abby then says that they were starving, and she can't just lock them up in the library, and Pacey's just shaking his head at her like, that's your excuse? That's your excuse? Like, Abby, in my opinion, Abby could have, like, used a better excuse by saying, like, she could have been like, we can't sit still for this long, like, just be a little bit more honest. And Mrs. Trinkle goes, so you went to gym for what? To eat a basketball? And Abby goes, no, we didn't know what we were doing. We were delirious. Mrs. Trinkle goes, Abby, if I hear one more peep from you, and Pacey races up to cover Abby's mouth, like, oh, heck no. As soon as Abby goes, Mrs. Trinkle, like, Pacey's like, no. Do not say a word. And Mrs. Trinkle then Mrs. Trinkle holds up the cards, and then she says, these need sorting. And we see Joey looking up while Pacey uncovers Abby's mouth by pointing up to her like, do not make a sound. And Mrs. Trinkle drops all the cards, and Pacey gets up like, no! And we see Joey standing up like Pacey did when he saw Mrs. Trinkle drop the cards. We then see Joey, Jen, and Dawson all sitting down, all depressed over the fact, and Pacey's face just makes the cut there. He just looks like, are you kidding me? And it just makes it so better as he's sitting down. She then explains how they need to sort the cards or else they will be here next Saturday in detention. And she goes, are you hip to my logo? Which, I want to say this, why would any librarian want to stay longer than they actually have to for detention? They stand up, they all stand up, except for Abby. And as they're bending down and getting the cards, Dawson asks if Abby's going to help them or not. And she says, I can't. I have carpal tunnel syndrome. And they all just stare at her. And I love how Joey and Pacey are making the same expression. Obviously all of them are making the same expression, but it kind of looks more like I was focusing on them too. And Jen was as well. Like, it was all like 3 of them just looking like, I'm gonna kill this woman. I'm gonna kill this woman. And see scene 10 of Pacey and Joey, aka the last scene of Pacey and Joey. We then see Joey, who honestly looked like she wanted to die, hands Pacey the cards who was sitting next to her. And Pacey takes the cards and goes to Dawson and Jen, and we see Dawson say, last one, and Jen goes, thank God. And while Abby's just over there putting on lipstick, we see Mrs. Trinkle comes in and goes, how's the cards coming? We then see Abby walk up to her and say, oh good, and honestly, I thought that she was just going to be like, oh good, and drops the cards. I honestly would have made this scene like 10 times better. Like, oh good, Mrs. Trinkle, we got them all done. drops them. And then we see her tell Mrs. Tringle that they got them all done, and everyone else around her looks completely annoyed. We then hear Mrs. Tringle say that it's 4:30 and you should be able to go home soon. Abby then goes, Mrs. Tringle, you have pretty eyes. And then she goes, have you ever thought about having contacts? And Mrs. Tringle says that she doesn't have to flatter her because she has served her time, and she learns that to not be excessively charity will be tolerated. Abby then looks all embarrassed while the others were smirking, and Pacey walks up to her and he's like, I knew it from the very beginning. I saw you through and through and through. Here's school slut routine. You're a liar. And Abby then says, takes one to know. Pacey then goes, oh please spare me. You're nothing but a white bread country club goody two-shoes with a bad case of potty. Abby then goes, oh no, Pacey's onto me. Can I ever show my face in public again? She's probably thinking, like you. Big deal. I was trying to make the day more interesting. The question is, why are you in detention? Dawson then points out that was the deal, remember? If you lose the game, you have to tell us why you were in detention. Which, I even agree with Pacey when he said that game was a sham. Because literally Dawson it was like the last minute too. Like Abby kind of distracted him, unless that was the plan. Like suddenly Miss Tringle. And Pacey says, a deal's a deal. And Jen and Joey even said, come on, Pacey. And Dawson says, can't expect Pacey to fess up to anything. Finally, Pacey says something about Dawson's attitude. I mean, really says something about Dawson's attitude. Because he goes, I'm so sick and tired of coping with this attitude with me. Dawson then says, I want to trust you. And Pacey goes, you want to trust me? Like I'm going to steal your girlfriend or something? Again, this really shows the difference between Pacey and Dawson right here. Because, or even like, it shows their relationship. And I want to point out that I asked this question on Instagram, what you guys thought about Pacey and Dawson's relationship. And all of you guys thought. So I asked you guys on Instagram what you guys thought of the relationship between Dawson and Pacey. And since we're on the scene where Pacey gets called a screw-up by Dawson, I'm going to read some of y'all's answers. The first one was, Dawson was a shitty friend all along and only ever thinking about himself. Sad and dysfunctional. I don't know if Dawson can be a friend with someone but himself. I think Dawson is selfish and a bad friend in general. I think it's very interesting to watch. It's really realistic it's a super realistic portray of friendship. It makes sense that they were never the same again, but it makes me really sad because I relate. And then I hate how Dawson treated Pacey and how he acted in season 3 and 4. It was unacceptable. I also hate how Dawson acted in season 6 after Pacey lost his money even though it wasn't his fault. Pacey was the friend and Dawson always thought he deserved the world. All talk and nothing to show. They always said that they were best friends but never really. I like them. They seem really close, but I think it's Dawson's fault. He's immature. Dawson does not deserve Pacey. Dawson's such a baby. He got to deal with that. Dawson is selfish to have a friend / relationship last. The first sight of trouble he bails. Dawson and Pacey, great at first, but it wasn't a friendship that much. Turns out the friendship wasn't strong enough to stand Dawson's bullshit. I like them, but Dawson wasn't a good friend to Pacey. He was selfish and he didn't even he didn't even remember his birthday. I love that person's reply. I think if Dawson had known Pacey better, things would be different, but I don't know. After he made it clear that he thought of Pacey as a loser, that made his life look better. Toxic. I like the emoji that they use. It was only a one-way friendship, I guess. Dawson never really gave Pacey a second chance because he was too jealous. I don't think it was that strong. If it only took the girl to break it up, it wasn't worth it. I always thought that Dawson is consistently underestimating Pacey. Take the episode with Eve. He instantly thought about Pacey was the one who stole the answers, and I feel Pacey's valid the more friendship more than Dawson, because I feel bad when they broke it off. Pacey felt more sad. I think they had something real until the stronger feelings showed up. Neither of them knew how real intense the love that they felt for Joey was begging. But after we saw them treating each other like garbage, especially Dawson, and it wasn't healthy anymore. I think they were friends when they were kids, but as they got older, something changed, and Dawson saw differently, maybe less of him, and he found that there was some competitions between them, even if Pacey wasn't aware of it. I hated it. Dawson always made Pacey feel like he wasn't worth it, as he was social service. I love this answer. If they weren't competing so much, they would have grown it by their difference. And then one person put worst friendship, and then put like the sparkles ever, and then another sparkle. I don't know why I love that so much, but the reason why I'm pointing this out is because I want you guys to like get a visual of what everyone thought about these two. And so my real thoughts on Dawson and Pacey is the fact that they just could not handle each other. And at the end of the day, at the end of the show really, these two just really did not match well. And everyone's like, oh, like, they were cute from the beginning, but even from the beginning, like, I could see that this was not going to end up well. Like, there were so many bad things that could happen. Dawson replies to, I wouldn't put it past you. You'd do anything for sex. I hate how he says this because, again, he says in the third episode, it just does not make sense when he finds out about Tamara and Pacey. It does not make sense how you would view your best friend as someone who just likes sex, like he's a sex maniac. But he's not a sex maniac, and Pacey said that about himself, and that's why I went, oh, sure, Pacey, sure you're a sex maniac, but he wasn't, and because Pacey said that about himself, Dawson automatically thought it was okay that he could say that, and the truth is, no matter how big or how small your best friend, it doesn't matter what they're going through, don't come after them like that. I wouldn't come after Morgan in a year or so by being like, I remember when you did this in 7th grade and it really hurt my feelings. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes my best friend looks at me like, girl, the hell up. Honestly, for me, it's just you don't point out those things anymore because I wouldn't like it if someone else pointed out my flaws. And so for Dawson, I honestly think that him pointing out the flaws of Pacey Witter was not a good thing whatsoever. And it's not because I like Pacey, but it's generally because you just don't do that to a friend. And even Pacey says, that sucks, Dawson. Is that the way you think of me? And Dawson says, what am I supposed to think? You kissed my girlfriend. And even Jen was like, it was a dare. And Pacey says, thank you. And Dawson says, you guys were totally into it. Which, Anna says, well, I wasn't, but I wish she had the attitude and kind of tricked Dawson, like how Joey tricked Dawson in the beginning, like, yes, I was. But she didn't say that. She went, well, I wasn't. No offense to Pacey. And Pacey goes, none taken. Then Dawson says, the whole Oompa Loompa thing, and Pacey says, oh, for the love of God, Dawson, you blew that way out of proportion. And he says, maybe I have, alright? But you don't understand. You don't get it. Those two words, Oompa Loompa, I hate those words. It's like every insecurity I have about myself exists inside those two words. Which I honestly wish that we got the background of why or how that started. Because all I can hear, and whenever I see the word Oompa Loompa throughout this whole episode or hear it, I just think of Oompa, Oompa, Oompa Loompa. I have a future waiting for you. What? I don't know the words. I got the words, guys. Okay, so I went back and I looked at the words. And the words are Oompa, Oompa, wait, Oompa, Loompa, doopity-doo. I got a perfect puzzle for you. Oompa, Loompa, doopity-doo. If you're wise, you'll listen to me. What do you get when you guzzle down sweets? Eating as much as an elephant eats. Oh, I know how this happened. It probably happened with him eating a candy bar and then Pacey suddenly made fun of him. And then it goes, what are you at? Getting terribly fat. What do you think when you come of that? I don't like that, the look of that. Oompa, oompa. Wait, how do I say oompa, oompa? It's oompa, loompa, doopity-da. If you're greedy, you will go far, far. You will live in happiness too, like oompa, oompa, doopity-doo, doopity-doo. Now I get it. It's been like probably an hour and a half of me doing this, probably longer, and I get why Pacey said this. For not being sexually experienced. I'm a virgin, alright? I'm not some sex stud like you, which, nice to know, Dawson. And Pacey said, sex stud? Please, tell me you're joking, Dawson. Okay, do you want to know why I'm here? And Dawson says, yeah. And Pacey then says, and you have to swear this will never leave this room. And Joey says, I swear. Jen says, cross my heart. And Pacey points at Abby, who says, I swear, but then crosses her fingers. Pacey then says, okay, yesterday, after you totally busted my nose with that basketball, the cheerleaders were being really friendly towards me, bandaging up my nose and hugging me and stuff, and I got a little excited. And I love how Joey said, oh no. And Pacey went on by saying, I went to the bathroom to relieve the tension. Abby's face throughout the whole thing was just hilarious. Like, oh, like, I get what he's saying. Pacey then says, the coach came in and wanted to check up on my nose, and Abby then goes, he saw a lot more than your nose, didn't he? And Pacey says, yeah, well, needless to say, that's why I'm here. And Abby goes, that's the most embarrassing story that I have ever heard. And Pacey just says, thanks. And let me pause right here, because honestly, I get why Pacey was saying all this, but it's kind of sad when you really think about it. Back to the Tamara thing. Tamara was not in this episode, but it's Pacey trying to deal with the fact that Tamara's not going to be there anymore. And it's such a sad fact. And makes sense in a lot of different ways, but in other ways I'm like, there were other ways that he could handle the tension, but when the cheerleaders were all up on him, it probably made him realize that, oh wait, like, I can't just go off and have sex anymore. Like, this is my life, and I have to really feel this. And for him to come out and say, this is what's happening to me, and I'm embarrassed of it, and I'm ashamed of it, he can unpause because he again goes, so do you think you can stop throwing basketballs at my face now, Dawson? And he goes, I think it's glaringly obvious that I'm not going to see your girlfriend. I mean, at least you have a girlfriend. I got nothing left. Okay, Pacey, you have everything left. It's really sad when Pacey says, I have nothing left, because it's basically showing, like, here I am. I'm struggling. This is what my life is at the moment, because I don't know what I'm doing half the time. And I think it was reasonable for Pacey to do that, but at the same time, I'm sure when you have to admit stuff like that, like, it's like admitting that you did something wrong. And I'm surprised that he got detention for that. Like, hold on, I'm actually not surprised, because can you just imagine the coach walking on, being like, hey Pacey, how's your nose? Oh! Like, he just covers his eyes. And why did he do it? Like, wasn't there bathroom stalls in the boys' bathroom? So why didn't he just, reveal the tension in the boys' bathroom? But that's my point. It reveals that Pacey is showing that he is nothing, and we heard several times in the past 7 episodes that people are viewing him as nothing, and people are his brother, his best friend now, Tamara probably saw him as nothing. She just saw him as a sex object. Nellie saw him as nothing, and Abby told him, she kept making fun of him throughout the episode about Tamara. And it made sense, everyone that he knows is seeing him as nothing. And so now he has to deal with the consequences of being there and being like this. Dawson then goes to Jen, and he, talks about having sex, and la-di-da-di-da, which, Dawson, that's more embarrassing than Pacey, talking about his tension loss. He then goes to Pacey, after saying all that stuff to Jen, and says, Pacey, I've been a real jerk. I'm sorry about your nose, man. And Pacey says, I'm sorry I called you Oompa Loompa. Man, it shouldn't have come as much as a surprise, considering I'm a screw-up. And Dawson says, you're not a screw-up, Pacey. And this is so sad. Pacey goes, yeah, I'm a screw-up, and everyone knows it. And I love how Abby just, ruins the sad moment by just nodding her head, yeah, he's a screw-up. And again, it goes back to the point that I was making, everyone finds this man as a screw-up. And Pacey then says, but Dawson, you're my best friend, man. I don't want to screw it up. Oh, jeez. You're Pacey, you're not going to screw it up. Dawson's going to screw it up. And Joey's face the whole time was, not happy with everything. And it kind of showed, a glimpse of a clip with this. And Joey then says, when did everyone become so obsessed with sex? Now, you too, Dawson, if you're worried that everyone's more experienced than you, you can rest easy because you still have one friend who will probably go to the grave a virgin. Dawson then tells her that it's only a matter of time. My brain short circuits, and I began bedding down with every guy with fast cars and big biceps. Which, you do kind of go with the guy with the big biceps instead of the romantic guy, but it goes back to Joey, and it's kind of like how I was talking about Pacey, how he feels like nothing, and now Joey has to deal with the fact that, there is a guy who she really likes and who she wants to be with, but now she can't be with him because he wants Jen, and he really wants Jen, like, not like that sweet kind of Jen. And then he goes, before you meet the right person, and Joey goes, she has, which she was not wrong. She has met the right person. He was sitting not next to her, but the one that was kind of looking like, oh god, this is not going to end up well. Talk about the fact that, like, this is the little sex story over here, where Pacey and Joey finally get together, and I found this really weird parallel, where she was worried about how he was gonna, like, cheat on her, because she wouldn't have sex with him, and then Dawson over here already has a girlfriend, and she slept with him, and she had no idea. He then says, Joey, and Joey then says, I'm sorry, Dawson, I don't know what's going on. I have these feelings, these weird feelings, and I don't know how to say them, and I can't say them. I mean, you know everything about me, everything, and I still can't say this. I can't, and I just feel so lonely. And Dawson reminds her that she is not alone, but Joey disagrees. I like how he's like, you're not alone. Like, just ignore every single fact that she's saying with these weird feelings. She doesn't know what to say, and she can't say them. But you just get the fact that she says, you're not, like, I feel really lonely. Like, that's it, Dawson. That's all you're gonna say about this fact. And Joey disagrees again, and he says, Joe, I'm here for you now, okay? Nothing you can say can change that. Sorry, I'm laughing, you guys, because I just think about every single time I hear Dawson say nothing that you can say can change that. I'm like, sure, Dawson. Sure, nothing can change that until she catches feelings with Pacey. And he says, maybe if you just say these things, then they'll be out in the open and your feelings won't be so strong anymore. Like, you could be free. Like a bird. Be free like a bird. Season 3, episode 21. Joey then says, I can't. If I say these things, I can't ever take them back. It changes everything, and I can't do that. I can't. Then why are you saying them, Joey? Like, why are you making it such a big deal? And again, I just love Pacey's face around this whole thing. He's like, oh my god, this is not going to end up well. Which, then, Mrs. Chingle decides it's time to go home. She goes, well, everybody, congratulations. You're done. Your time now. You can go home. And we just see Joey awkwardly sitting there, Pacey just covering his face, like, oh god, this is not gonna end up well, and Dawson just sitting there staring at the table into nothing. And that's the end. Congratulations, you guys, you have made it through the whole episode. But here is my conclusions of this episode. Number 1, I was very disappointed that I never seen the Breakfast Club, so I can't compare it, but I'm really satisfied with this episode because of how it was played with the Mighty Ducks part. I love this. Second thing I learned was Oompa Loompa. Oompa Loompa, oopity doo. I don't know why, that was funny to me. And lastly, I want to point out the obvious, that this episode concludes every single thing that I love about Pacey and Joey. And together, this is what it brings. It really shows how they are as friends. And it showed how Dawson, Pacey, and Joey, and how Dawson really got jealous of Pacey with every single thing, which really shows basically the whole show. And how, like you guys were saying earlier, how it shows how everything is not the way it seemed in the first episode, where it seemed like they had a great relationship and they had a great friendship, but we all knew this friendship was just doomed from the beginning. Like, some of you guys are like, friendship? And I'm like, I'm sorry I said relationship, but friendship, yeah. And I also want to say that with Dawson, it always seemed like he was just scared of losing. Like, that was the main point of this whole thing. That Dawson hated losing, and so therefore he would fight Pacey for it. And we don't see him fighting for Pacey, like, once, not twice, not 3 times. Like, every single season, Dawson does this kind of thing where he goes, you're not good enough, you're not worthy of it, you're not this. And instead of, like, obviously Pacey takes it in, but he knows Dawson better than that, and so therefore he's like, no, don't call me that. Don't tell me that. Like, don't tell me I'm not worth it, because I know I'm worth it. Like, I know I'm good enough in the end, but it's going to take him a while to realize that, because there's so many people telling him that he's not worth it. And then there's Joey. Joey is not really in the middle of all of this, like, but in another way, she started all of this. Like, she started from the very beginning. She said that Pacey has big biceps, and therefore he could win the arm wrestling match, and he did. Like, he literally did, but that's what Dawson's mind went through when he saw Jen and Pacey together, which I want to say again, I love that relationship so much. So when you bring all of that to the table, it really foreshadows so many events. The season 3 event, how Pacey sees Dawson and Joey's relationship, and even the next episode it will kind of show it. And 3 episodes later, Pacey and Joey finally kiss. And I think when you combine all of those together, it shows what this show really is. And it kind of like starts our little love triangle over here, because it shows Dawson's weakest insecurities, Pacey's weakest insecurity, and Joey having to deal with Dawson not really understanding what's happening here and being blind by all this, and Pacey completely understanding this. The end of this episode, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Even if you don't listen to the YouTube channel, again, make sure that you subscribe to it, because it helps me get there, and I guess it's 1,000 subscribers, which I don't really think they'll ever get there, but we're going to try. We are manifesting that we get there. Make sure that you follow my Instagram. It's called Glitter and Potter. Make sure that you follow my TikTok. That's Pacey and Joey. And if you also want more content from me, you can always go on my Instagram. There's a whole bunch of links there. You're always welcome to comment down below. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you dislike on YouTube. Or you can just message me on Instagram. Or comment on my recent post that has the drawing and everything on here. And I want to say last week I messed up because I did not put the YouTube video correctly, which really irritated me. But if you want to watch along, you can always watch along on YouTube. I said this at the beginning of the episode. I probably will say this forever, because I really want you guys to know that it may help you if you watch along with the YouTube video. So that's all I have for this week. I'm ready for episode 8 already. It's going to be such a good episode with Pacey and Joey. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye!